Everyone, so today I am filming a huge video on hopefully everything that you would ever want to know about Bare Minerals, just the basic application of the products themselves, the foundations, just the regular loose mineral foundations, how to get full coverage, because I know we've all seen, you know, people with great skin or semi-great skin doing, you know, tutorials, or people on TV and they say, wow, you know, it's such full coverage, but it's very different for everyone. Right now I am coming out of the first trimester crazy hormone stage of pregnancy. I have a lot of breakouts and issues to cover, so while embarrassing to show, this is going to be a very good, I think, time for me to sort of demonstrate this. So you can get a very full coverage look, looking natural, covering well. There are some pros and cons to this. I'm gonna get into everything, and this video is gonna be sort of two parts. In the beginning, first half, I guess, I'm gonna sort of explain everything about, you know, how I've chosen the foundations, tips and things like that, brushes, and then in the second half, it's gonna be a full tutorial. So it's gonna be very long, but I didn't wanna do several videos. I wanted everything to be in one. So today I'm wearing very mineral makeup. My hair's pretty messy. I just really wanted to do this on the makeup itself, and I will show all of that in the tutorial, even the eyes, which there's not much to it, but very simple. Now, I have been a Bare Minerals sort of like, I guess we've had a love-hate relationship over the years, ever since I was in college, you know, probably the very beginning of college, maybe even end of high school, when those first infomercials came out. I was sucked in, and I tried it, wasn't crazy about it. Every couple of years I get sucked back in and I try it again, and over the past month I've just been determined. I've sort of done like an experimental phase in this. I've tried the Ready foundation, I've tried the matte, the regular, all the concealers, all of the different products that I can use where foundation is concerned. I really wanted to get it right. So every day I would, you know, I would do something one day, I would look at it at the end of the day. The next day I would change just one thing and then see how that worked, and kind of just saw how my skin reacted over the month and really put together and found, I think, what works the absolute best for me. So I will say, obviously starting out, there are two main formulas. There is the loose Bare Minerals original foundation, and then there's the matte. Now, they're very different. The original is going to have a bit more of a natural sheen to it. Don't get scared. I have very oily skin, and while you would think the matte would hold up better on me, actually I prefer the original. I think that it doesn't accentuate pores as much, which is nuts, because the matte's main sort of selling point is that it diminishes the look of pores, and I find that to be totally opposite, and I apply a very little bit and build it up each time. So I'll get into that in a moment as well. So I apply them the same, but I think the original just gives me a better, I think, just a better overall effect. Now, where I have some unevenness, where I break out around my chin and stuff, the original really accentuates that, which is a little strange because it doesn't accentuate my pores, and I don't really have big pores, but the matte makes it look like I have crazy pores going on. So what I like to do is take the same shade in the matte. I'm fairly light in both, that's the shade that I wear, and I will apply the original all over and do it the way that I said. You know, I build it up, and I'll demonstrate that in a moment. Then I take a layer of the matte and I put that over my chin, and I think that that sort of diminishes the look of like any breakouts, any like unevenness, anything that's going on. Now, there are concealers as well. The only concealer that they have that works for me is the Well Rested, and it is marketed as a product to use around your eyes, which is what I do. It did not work for me on breakouts because it has a bit of a sheen to it, so that doesn't work for me. But what I like to do is use the actual matte foundation as a concealer. It covers amazingly with the brush that I use. The tools are absolutely probably the most important part, I would say, and I'll go over that in a second as well. So I combine the two. I've found a good balance between the matte, the original, and then I use the Well Rested concealer just sort of to brighten, and that's all that I'm wearing today. I mean, besides bronzer and stuff. Speaking of, I do not use the Warmth. That is the product that's loose. It's the all-over face product that sort of is described as, from a lot of people, as a bronzer. It does have that appearance to it. It can look perfect when I first apply it, but then throughout the day it just looks like it's sort of not blended anymore. Like it sort of settles and looks Like you can see the outline of it. It's not good for me. So I just use my regular bronzer and a regular blush. I think that you don't need to get sucked into feeling like you have to use the loose blushes. You have to use the warmth or an all over color. I've tried the Glee as well, which is the same as warmth, but it's a little rosy. The blushes do the same thing. They just don't look right. They look perfect when I first apply them. They're blended, they're flawless. In about 4 or 5 hours though, they'll start looking like unblended, like you can see the outline, almost like the oils in your skin just sort of separate it from the rest of your makeup. It's not good. But the rest of the products really hold up throughout the day, which is good. Now, when you apply it, the biggest mistake I made over the years was applying it just like they show, the tiny little sprinkle, and then getting nothing and saying, okay, this sucks. I need more, so then I put a ton in the lid, and then I end up feeling heavy. And right now, I applied a bunch of layers, and you'll see that in the tutorial because that's how you build up the coverage, is you just sprinkle a little and layer it, sprinkle a little more and then layer it, sprinkle a little more and then layer it. And I feel like when I move my face around, I have nothing on my face. So that is a good thing. So it's just all about building slowly and blending. Now, it's time consuming. It's gonna take a long time. If you've got perfect skin, or if you've just got like typical skin that's not like, you know, you've got some discoloration but you don't have major like breakouts going on or redness left behind or marks left behind from previous breakouts, you're gonna be golden with this and you're gonna be able to say, yeah, this is great, I can get perfect coverage and check out the full coverage I get. Well, your full coverage really isn't the same as full coverage for people that actually have stuff to cover. So that's worth keeping in mind. When you see the demos on TV, when you see tutorials, you have to keep in mind that you have more skin issues than some people that you see doing these tutorials or people on TV. You're going to have to take more time with it. So you can build it up and get it right. A lot of times why I end up giving up on this stuff is because I feel like in 2 seconds I can put on some liquid foundation, blend it, and everything's covered. So you kind of have to give and take. If you really want to use this product, you're going to have to be patient. That's just all there is to it. So as far as the brushes that I like to use, I do not like Bare Minerals brushes for several reasons. I just feel like they don't hold up. They get gross over time. When you wash them, they turn not good. I've done of brushes and I've never had that experience. They shed really bad. I'm just not a fan. I'm not going to go into super detailed reasons, but I'm going to tell you the brushes that I do really recommend for this. And I've tried so many different brushes. I have had, just over the past month, it's crazy what all I've tried. But the brush that I have settled on is working the very best. I've tried my Sephora ones, my Sigma ones, the Bare Minerals is this Tarte one. So I mix, it's a mix of this Tarte brush and some more Sigma brushes that just really work amazing with this. And I'll demo all these in the video, but this is a Tarte brush. And I have this version also that looks like that I use for my liquid so I can keep it straight. But I will link to this below. I think it's called like the Airbrush. I don't know, but it's very good. It's perfect. I use the Sigmax brushes, which feel like this, but they're a little more dense. The one Sigmax brush that I really did like was this one that was angled, which is the F84. It's the angled rounded one. This worked well, although I feel like as you blend, it may blend some of it away. If you're not going to be blending a ton of layers, if you've got good skin anyways, that might be a good option. But this one I think is just great because it's dense, but it is fluffy enough to really blend the product in and not buff away anything. If you're going to use the concealer or the Well Rested, this is a must. This is the F35. I love this brush for this area anyways. I have a really big broken capillary right there. I don't have anything else on it but the Well Rested concealer. And when I go like that, well, and then I have my MAC under eye, but I don't really bring it down to cover that. And you'll see in the video. When I go like that, it just blends everything. I just don't know how to describe it. It almost like turns the minerals into a liquid-ish, you know, coverage type thing, which is what they're supposed to do as you blend. But this brush is just so perfect for that. And, you know, I bring it down even like on these little shadowy areas. And if you wanted to, you can even take your matte, like I use for my concealer, and in large areas you can kind of buff it on with this. This brush just really is awesome for Bare Minerals stuff. For spot concealing, I like this E34. This is a really, really awesome brush. It looks like those little pencil brushes, but it's not pointy on the end. It is like a little rounded thing, and it just is like a little eraser. And then for my finishing powder, I love, love, love the F25. Love, love, love. Perfect. And this is what I use for finishing powder anyways. Speaking of finishing powder, the Mineral Veil, I am in love with the Ready version in the tinted formula. They have like a light, medium, and tan, and the light is perfect for me. I tried the medium and it was so orange and streaky on my face. I don't think I could ever use that. Even if I was like really tan, I just do not think that would work for me. So the light is just so perfect. And even when I have found myself going back to, you know, wearing my liquid foundation throughout the month, this is the setting powder I've been using. So this is a keeper and a very, very good product. As far as primers go, quickly I will mention that the Primetime Primer did not work with my skin. It really broke me out. I mean, I'm having hormonal things anyways, but it really sort of made little bumps all over my face, even in areas that I never break out. I stopped using it and that did not happen anymore. So I think it's just a mix of, that primer's just very greasy feeling, and I used just the tiniest bit and it still just did not work for me. I am not a big primer person. I think that they work fine, but I think they're not a necessity. I think that if your skin is really moisturized and it has a slip to it anyways, I think you'll be fine. I think sometimes less is more. I just make sure that my skin's really well moisturized ahead of time, and I use this SkinMD Natural Shielding Lotion. And it gives like the perfect like slip to your skin. And then to set it, I think it is pretty essential, which I would not have ever said about makeup setting sprays years ago, because I've tried so many of them, and I think in a lot of cases they just sort of take away the powdery look, but they're a little gimmicky. They're not going to really keep your makeup on all day. This one really does. It's the Urban Decay All Nighter, and I've gone through a few bottles of this stuff. You need the tiniest amount. It's a really fine mist. You never need to soak your face to where it needs to dry or anything. And I have found also with my little experimental face that less is more with this stuff. At the end of the day, you can really, really tell a difference when you have used a light amount of this versus if you don't use it or if you use too much. So I'm going to demonstrate all that as well. Like I said, a lot to explain in the beginning. This is not like the tutorial is the part of the video and this is just the beginning. Like, this is really my tips and like the first part, and the second part will be sort of demonstrating the tips as well, even though I'm not gonna like mention all of them. It's just a big video, and hopefully if you have any questions about this, you can just, everything will be into this one video. As far as the new liquid flawless skin makeup or whatever, I haven't tried that. I feel like I need a little bit of coverage where a foundation's concerned, and I've heard it doesn't have great coverage, so I don't know. I'm gonna try it eventually. Also, if you wanted to try the matte and the original to compare, I would suggest going to an actual store and getting matched. These are the little, like, sort of not tiny sample sizes, but these are the ones that come in a kit. And I bought this at Ulta. It's the Get Started Complexion Kit. It came with the primer, a brush, the warmth, the loose mineral veil, and then the matte and the original formula in a nice bag. So I'm only really using 2 of these products, and the bag is nice. So I think looking back, I may have just bought these separately. And then if you find that you really don't like the matte or you really don't like the original, you can just return the one that you don't need. But getting your color is key. Go into the store, go into a Sephora or an Ulta or wherever. Play with the colors in person, get matched, because they are very odd. Like, some of them are very, very yellow, or they're very, very pink. It's very difficult, I found, to match and the colors have changed over the years because the formula has changed a lot. So we're gonna get into the tutorial. Again, like I said, I guess this is a good time and a bad time for me to do this because my skin is not its best, as you will see, but yeah, like I said, first trimester in pregnancy kind of got me with the hormones and the breakouts, but I hope that you find the tutorial helpful, and keep watching and I will demonstrate every single thing that we just talked about. I don't use a primer. Again, I'm fine with my SkinMD Natural Shielding Lotion, just as long as your skin feels really slippery and there's no like dry areas and that it feels comfortable. So I start with the Bare Minerals Fairly Light. That is the matte. I do not use that one. I use the original first. The original is my favorite, I think, and this is Fairly Light. and I literally just sort of, that might even be a little bit too much. So I'm gonna start small, and I use my Tarte Airbrush foundation brush. This is a sort of a medium-sized one. If you had the larger size, the full-size jar, it would be easier to sort of swirl and do all that. So you just sort of swirl the product in until there's no more left in the lid. Don't feel like if you need a lot of coverage, you need to put the amount you're eventually going to use in there, and you just need to use the smallest amount. You shouldn't have a whole, well, when you tap, a little bit comes off. And then I just start on one side. And what's weird about this is the more you blend it in like that, the more coverage you're going to get. If I sound a little stuffy today, my allergies are kind of getting to me. So it may not look like it's doing anything. The more you sort of buff it in, the more the color is going to develop, which is a little nuts. And I just sort of work in phases. This is where it gets a little tedious. You're going to have to repeat that process until you get the coverage you want. I've tried this, like I said, so many different ways, and trust me, if you do it all at once with one giant amount, it's going to be not pretty. It's going to look really cakey. It's just not going to be good. So I don't have a whole lot of discoloration on my actual cheeks, which is good because you can really sort of adjust it like for the area that you're doing. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, and then I always do like my chin and the area around my mouth last, because that's sort of the area where I need the most coverage, and I can sort of focus on that last. I usually do that twice on my cheeks, and that's not going to like make you look totally makeup-y, but it is going to cover anything major. And then keep in mind that we're going to go back with concealer as well. One bad thing about this whole process is that it is time consuming. Bare Minerals is going to be a little more time consuming. Alright, same amount, do it again, and do the forehead. My forehead I usually don't need that much coverage, so I may just do this once, maybe twice. But again, don't just sweep it on and leave it. Really work it in, because the minerals will really come out of the brush and really sort of develop the color on your skin as you blend. I haven't done my eyebrows or anything, so they're all crazy and going all over the place. And the area that I struggle is around my mouth, my chin, where there's all the redness and scarring, and not like pits or like textural scarring, but like colors, you know, I mean, it's more of like a hyperpigmentation thing, like left behind. You can see that's sort of covering it already, and that's just the first one. You may have noticed as I was doing this that I don't get it up around my eyes. Some foundations I do, some I don't. This, I just feel like it accentuates your lines. So I've done it around my eyes, I haven't done it, I've used it as, you know, a concealer. It's just not good, this particular original. So I kind of dab it on and then I work it in, and each time I sprinkle out just a little more on the lid. So when you get the coverage that you want and you know that you can kind of go back with concealer and get the rest, I sort of just go around, make sure that everything is sort of like seamless. Then I take what's left on the brush. You can even take a little more, and I just sort of make sure that there's going to be no lines. I make sure that everything just looks seamless, and just make sure that you sort of work it down your neck. So again, the original really looks flawless on my skin up here. It makes my pores diminish, which is sort of the opposite of what you would think. The matte really accentuates that, but around areas where I'm breaking out, for some reason, the original sort of accentuates that a bit more. So, in that kit that I showed you, that is not it, you get a matte as well. So what I like to do, and it's in the same color, is I take a little bit of the matte. You can see not everything's covered. Like I said, I was not really wanting to do that. I was more wanting to have to go back and conceal last. If you try to cover everything with the foundation, if you've got skin issues, you're gonna go crazy, with the first application at least. So I dab it on and then I start swirling, and I just feel like the matte sort of does better in that area. I like to do my under eye area last, but next we're just going to continue perfecting the skin and getting everything like concealed. And you can go in with a concealer. The Well Rested is the only one that even matches my skin tone remotely. The bisque is way too dark for me. So what I like to do is either take the Well Rested, or you can take the matte formula. The matte really, I think, makes a great, I'm getting all these confused, really makes a great concealer. So whatever you want to do, you can use either one. And I like to use this little brush by Sigma. It is an E34. I do have the flat concealer brush by Bare Minerals. This one right here, does not work for me. I just don't like it at all. So what I like to do is just sort of dab this straight into the product and then swirl it around, and it really, really covers amazingly. Like, you can just sort of dab it on, and again, I'm using the matte. You can see it just like covers everything like magic. The Well Rested that I just showed, I could use that as well, but sometimes it is a bit yellow and it has the same sort of like mica sheen to it that the original has. So I just feel like this method works really well. Don't feel like you have to buy the separate concealer, but I will show you what I love the Well Rested for in a moment. So again, you may not have to do all this, but I have so much like discoloration around this area from previous breakouts, and a lot of it's fading, but when it fades it's great. I don't have to do all this, but it is just like so tedious to have to cover. But a lot of times when I use liquid foundation, I don't have to go through all these steps because it just covers it, usually just with the foundation. So if you're going to use this, you do need to be aware that if you have skin issues, you are going to have to work a bit harder. I also like to take that and use it as a concealer on my forehead. Sometimes I get a little bit of breakouts and they're kind of red. You can just sort of go like that. Now moving on, this brush is what I'm going to be talking about a lot. We're almost done, but this is the Sigma F35. Must have if you're going to be doing Bare Minerals foundations and you're going to be using concealers. If you had you could even have used this for the concealer, but I didn't really want to do a whole other layer. I just wanted to use it where I needed it. For me, I think that works a little better. But this is a must-have for the Well Rested. I'm going to show you. Next, I do my under eye area. I realize I've already done powder products. I don't layer creams over powders like a liquidy product like this, but I have not applied the Bare Minerals to my under eye area. I have, like I said, during this whole like experimental phase, and just did not like it. It just does not work well for me in that area. So this is the MAC Radiant Rose, and I just dab that in with my finger. I did try a similar product by Bare Minerals called, oh gosh, it's those under eye like brightening concealers that they have, and they come in a whole bunch of different colors. You can use them all over your face. I think they're called like In the Spotlight or something. I don't remember, but I tried the pink one, and it was not pigmented at all, and it just was not, it was not nearly as good as that one. So I did return that, and because I thought, why use something different if I love that so much? So I get that really blended in. I make sure that it's not wet or sticky. You can even go on to do something else and let that sit, because I do ideally like to have that sit for a moment. And then again, I put just a tiny bit of the Well Rested in the cap. Again, just the tiniest amount like we did for everything else. I take this F35 brush, really work everything in so that there's nothing left in the lid, and then tap it off. And I know this sounds nuts because this is a more yellow toned product. It is not what I would ever have put underneath my eye, but I sort of sweep it in this area, and I had that red like broken capillary, and it just totally disappears. It really brightens this area up. And the reason this is what it's made to do. It's supposed to be something that you use around your eye area anyways, and then sort of bring it down. But as I was using it first, when I first got it, I was put a little more in there for the other eye, just repeat the same step. I was using it at first for my blemishes because I thought, perfect, it's yellow based and all that. But I found that it was a little, had too much of a sheen to it for blemishes. And I just didn't like the way it looked. So when I saw that, I thought, well, that would be great for sort of brightening your eye, you know? So that is what I have been loving this for. Again, I just sort of sweep. It's just amazing, like, the more you work with the brush, like, how much of it will continue to come out. But you can really use this, like, as a whole face brightener. You can put it a little bit, like, right there, like, where your little smile lines are. It's just really neat stuff. I had to do my eyebrows because they were driving me absolutely nuts. But this point is where I would usually do like the warmth product, which is that little loose product that they have in all the kits. When you ever see the infomercial, they always show the warmth. It's sort of like an all-over face color that warms up your complexion, almost like a bronzer. I can't get behind that. I've tried it for many years, and it's just never the right tone for me. So even when I first apply it and it looks good, even though I'm not crazy about the tone of it, if you do like it, use the tiniest amount, 10 times smaller than what we used for each foundation application. So that's my biggest tip there. But throughout the day, I would notice that while it would look great when I first applied it and smooth and blended, it would look like it almost just like got not chunky, but like unblended. And maybe that was my oily skin. I'm not sure, but my cheeks aren't usually oily at all. So what I do is I stick to my regular bronzer, and I use the IT CC Plus Radiance Bronzer. So go ahead and use a bronzer. So nothing new, it's just the same way that I would always apply a bronzer. Gonna use my NARS Orgasm Blush. I'm going to go ahead and do my eyes because I know that I'm going to be setting my makeup in a moment. And for a quick look, I just like to take this and my F64 Giant Sigma brush and sort of mix the little ombre and the bronze back and forth. And you can just quickly apply it to your lids. It's just one of those easy, like, you know, no thinking involved makeup looks. A little bit of liner. I'm using my IT Black Brown pencil. Some mascara, and I'm using my Chanel Volume de Chanel. And to set everything, you can use the mineral veil. They come in loose, they come in the pressed. I really like the pressed version, and the light is perfect for me. You can see it looks very light, but it's really not. I did try the medium, and it looked like orange streaks all over my face, if that gives you any idea. And I'm about, right now I'm probably like NC20, NC25, so be careful with that. I get just a little on the brush. That's actually probably too much. And the most goes on my chin where I get oily. A little bit right there. And then just dust whatever's left everywhere else. This is really, really good setting powder. I think out of everything, this is probably something, even if I don't use the Bare Minerals every day, which I do like the results, it is a little more time consuming, like I said. This is something that I would use with my liquid foundation as a setting powder as well. So what I like to do at the very end is use my Urban Decay All Nighter, my very favorite makeup setting spray. Do not soak your face with a setting spray. It shouldn't have to like dry or anything for an extended amount of time. You just want a very fine mist, and that's, I love the formula of this, but the mist is super, super fine, which I love. So that's it. I can already feel it. It's already dry. Well, over there it had a little more. But that's it. Again, it's going to take a little longer. My very final thoughts on this, I guess I mentioned a little bit before, but more difficult for people with oily skin. It just is what it is. More difficult for people that have a little bit of like textural issues, like when you break out. Obviously, pigmentation issues when you break out. It's going to be a little harder to work with. If you had a large area of breakouts, which technically I could have taken this flat brush and just, it does not work like that. This brush really, if you do it like that, you can really see the product a lot. That's why I like to get it sort of more individual. And it's this is a very slick synthetic brush, which is nice for some things, but it just doesn't apply as much product as I would like. You have to really go back and do it a lot, and just not my favorite. I, again, just like to take the smaller brush, and I do like to apply my concealer after foundation because of all of the buffing. You will buff every bit of the concealer away if you apply it first. So something to think about. However, if you have fairly good skin and you just have a couple of marks that you're going to conceal first and you don't have to apply so much foundation, it might work. But I just think all around that the concealer is better afterwards. So those are my thoughts. I'm trying to make sure that I have not left anything at all out. I will mention that the Tarte Airbrush foundation, this is sort of their version of a mineral makeup in a, you know, kind of the same idea in a jar. It's powder and loose. I will be doing a review and video on that coming up next. If you're more on the oily side, I think that without giving away the whole review, that review is worth watching because I think that is going to be a little better for oilier skin. So, Bare Minerals, while great results, there are some downsides to it. More work, more time. It can be frustrating when you first start. So, and there's a lot of components to get right, a lot of different little products to get in the shades and everything, and it's gonna be different for everyone. So, and the tools are just as important. So, I hope that you guys enjoyed that little review demo, big review demo, / all my thoughts on Bare Minerals. There's so much to say about these, and I just did not want you guys to have to watch 5 different videos if you wanted all of my thoughts on this. So I'm gonna try to cover everything. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you all very, very soon. Bye.